Hello, everyone. Welcome to the joint session. It doesn't work, right? The speakers?
No, it's only for the online audience. You won't hear the microphone.
Okay. So we have to speak loud. Okay. Welcome, everybody. Welcome everybody to the joint session about data management plans. I'm not going to read out all the names of the groups because they are too long. My name is Tomasz Miksa, and today there are also other chairs of the groups these groups with me. Daniela, Eli, Marek, Maria, identify yourself. Kevin, of course, is here. And then there are also some of the colleagues who couldn't join us in person, but they are also welcoming you in this session. Today, we want to talk with you about a few things, and the whole session is divided into 4 parts. In the first part, we want to get to know you a little bit, and we also want to give an introduction to newcomers about the groups. We want to tell you what the MA DMPs are, what the domain-specific guidance DMP working group did, and basically what is the relationship between the different working groups and interest groups for which the common denominator are the DMPs. Then in the second part, we want to have 4 presentations which are supposed to get you some ideas of what's going on in the community, and they are supposed to be a teaser for the discussion in part 3. And in part 3, we'll ask you to split into 4 breakout groups, and we want you to discuss the topics because we want to get to know what you think about the current state of the DMPs and where we should go and where we are as the community. And part 4 is for wrapping up the discussions, and we hope that the discussions will continue in the coffee breaks for the next 2 days. So to start with the introduction part, as you know already us, we would like to know about you. So we would like you to take your mobile phones and go to slide.com. And we have 3 simple questions about you. The first one that we would like to ask is simple. Where are you from? So you can provide free form text. You can tell us, the country, continent, city, planet, whatever comes to your mind. So United States, not Sweden, Germany, Finland, Austria, Colombia, Bergen, France, Poland, Serbia, Oslo, Costa Rica. We don't have anyone from Australia. And we also know that we have 55 people in the room. Okay, maybe more. Okay, but I see that the top, mostly Europe, Sweden, Norway, Germany, United States, Netherlands. Okay. Good. I see that mostly Europe. Okay, good. Then the second question we have for you is about your familiarity with the machine actionable data management plans, because maybe you have already heard about it for the last 10 plenaries and you're bored with this idea, or maybe you are really a newcomer to this session and this is the first time you want to hear about it. Okay, so I see that half of you just have heard something about it, and there are also some people who would like to use them or have experience in using them. By the way, how many participants we have online right now? Is 50. Okay. Just to know, how long to wait for the answers to arrive. Good. And the last question is, are you already a member of any of the working groups or interest groups that are organizing the meeting today? So have you been with us before, or is it just the first time and we should persuade you to sign up? Okay, lots of fresh blood. Well, I put this don't remember because I know that some people just come to a session and click and then join and then they don't know how many they are representing. Okay, but most of you are seems to be here for the first time. Okay, good, thanks. So that's about the voting, and now a few words about the groups. So as we said, we had 3 groups organizing these meetings. The first one is the interest group. An interest group has been established a long time ago, I know 10 years ago, has been basically from the very beginning with RDA. And as an interest group, this is a place where we want to bring all the topics related to data management plans, understood very broadly. And this group continues from plenary to plenary. And for example, in the past, this group decided to create working groups because this was a place to discuss ideas, and we identified, okay, we should have a working group on exposing DMPs. We should have a group on machine actionable DMPs. So this is what the interest group can do, and that's why Active DMP's interest group continues to exist. And then you have thematic groups, as I mentioned, for example, the DMP Common Standards Working Group. This was a working group which had 18 months, and the task was to deliver a specification on MADMPs. This has happened, and now the recommendation is out. RDA maintains the recommendation, and the group is responsible for maintaining the recommendation. So making some changes or helping in adoptions and so on. And that's why this group still continues to exist, but has a very well-defined mission of what it does and what it doesn't do. And last but not least, we have the domain-specific guidance for DMP's working group. So Daniela is representing the group, and this group is currently in operation. It will conclude end of May, and there is a publication in the Jupyter Notebook coming up. You will get to know more about the activities of the group in the introduction made by Daniela in a few minutes. But this is very important to sort out what's the difference, because sometimes you may be puzzled why there are 3 groups and not only one. So that's the relation. The most important thing, we all talk to each other, we all know each other. So if you have any idea about DMPs, just talk to any one of the group, from the groups. But the objective for today, and the reason why we have this session today, is because we want to identify the new hot topics relevant to this community. So from time to time in the plenary meetings, we come to ask you, what are the problems, what are the challenges we all face as a community? Is there something specific where the RDA is the place to solve it? And today's agenda is structured in such a way to try to figure out if there is some action needed, or maybe there is none. And to begin with, I would like to start with this introduction for newcomers on MADMPs. I apologize those who have seen it before, but it's important to make sure everyone is on the same page. So this comes from the working group, and most of you who are here know that data management plans are documents that are requested from researchers when they apply for funding or when their funding was accepted. And they must outline what data they are going to use and produce in the research, where will they keep it, under what license it will be published, and so on. And this is the starting point, the common denominator for all these groups. However, the problem of writing a data management plan is that it's mostly a responsibility of a researcher, and researchers very often don't like to write them because they think it's a bureaucracy. And at RDA, the working group, we understood that to improve the situation, we can automate the process of creating a DMP if we include more stakeholders. And to include the stakeholders, we need 3 elements. We must understand who can provide information needed for data management and at what stage. We must have a way to make these stakeholders talk to each other. And last but not least, we must have a common way to represent the information. So if you look at this workflow on the left-hand side, this is an example of how a process of creating a data management plan looks like. We have a researcher who provides basic information on the type and size of data. So for example, researcher says, I'm going to take pictures of magpies in Australia and I will create 300 pictures, each one being 5 megabytes, and this will be JPEG. And then based on that information, other stakeholders can help them identify what is the best storage. So for example, cloud storage or a data repository, what should be the license, how much this should cost. And for the majority of researchers, they are happy with a default recommendation provided by a service acting on behalf of a researcher. That's why of a stakeholder. That's why there is this RDM infrastructure column between the workflow and the stakeholders. And of course, there are special use cases when the researchers need special treatment. They need to talk to a human, and then they can request access from these stakeholders. But this is the idea. This is the picture of how we imagined the MADMPs to be used. And the group produced the recommendation. It has been issued in 2019, and the recommendation consists mostly of a documentation. The documentation is provided in GitHub. This is an excerpt from the documentation. It provides a common set of fields that we can use to model information from DMPs. So for example, you can provide information on costs or contributors to data management. And this specification is not a questionnaire, it's not a template. It is not something that you show to the researchers and ask them to fill out. This is a way for us to encode the information, to pass information from one service to the other. An example of a DMP, of a machine actionable DMP, is here. So you can see that, for example, Moritz is a data manager. You know that he's identified by ORCID. And this is very specific information compared to a traditional DMP in which you would say that our PhD student is taking care of data management. Yeah, that's way more specific, something that the machines can easily query and navigate. Of course, you can model more advanced examples, saying like what data sets there are, what licenses, if there is an embargo, and so on. I leave it for later. You can have access to the slides afterwards. Now we don't go into the details, but that's the idea of what the machine actionable DMPs can do. And as I said, we want it to be a glue between different systems. So we want to make it easier to talk to funders, to get information from repositories, if there was a deposit, and so on, to connect the stakeholders. Currently, there are many tools adopting it. So all of the DMP tool providers have support from MADMPs. Not fully at a different level, at a different degree, but basically DMP Online, DMP Tool, Argos, Data Stewardship Wizard. Are there also some of the national infrastructures in Norway, in Austria, are using MADMPs as their building components. If you want to stay in touch, if you want to learn more, go to our file repository at RDA website. We always put presentations there. The presentation from today will be also there from past plenaries. You can learn a lot about adoptions. We have also described our work in the CoData practice papers, so you can read about how the recommendation was and is being adopted. And the same is in two other journal papers that we have about how this group worked, what was the methodology. This can be relevant for you. That's it for the introduction about MADMPs. Do you have any questions? I can take one question if you want. Okay, no questions for now. That's, oh yeah.
The adoption of the different tools is at the application profile, not at the ontology level, I imagine.
Yes, so the question is if the adoption by tools is on the application profile level and not on the ontology level. So yes, we have provided the specification, and we don't suggest any specific serialization. It's not said it must be an ontology or it must be JSON or XML. We just agreed on a set of concepts that we understand in the following way. Yeah? Good. I hand over now to Daniela to talk about the domain-specific guidance.
Thank you, and hello also from my side. Yeah, so we have the discipline-specific guidance for DMP working group. Who we are. We are coming also later to this. How was our motivation? So we started in 2000. 20, I think. It's what it was at the Helsinki. We got the idea was coming up, and we had a look at the open air survey on the Horizon DMPs. And it clearly says that the researchers want to have guidance for their DMPs, for their DMP templates. They want to have best practices, so everything what helps them to step a bit more in the DMP and to fill in the DMP. Here, we also concluded that they should think about the researchers on RDM in advance, create a plan and identify the gaps. And therefore, we got this idea to create such a guidance and examples. And another point is also the adoption of the terminology, but this is not also apart from our working group. So who we are and what we did already. So here you see we have now at the moment 6 co-chairs. So we lost some of the co-chairs due to pregnancy and all these things. Yeah, so we are now 6 at the moment, 6 co-chairs. We set up a survey, an online survey with 21 questions on democracy graphics, the data description, data documentation and quality. One part was the data archiving, publishing and the sharing after the project, and guidelines, principles and best practices. The survey was running for 3 months. And we had 358 participants who made the whole way to the survey. Sometimes they missed the last questions, but this we counted as a full participant. So what will be the results from the survey? So on the left side, you see that we nearly got all the disciplines on the same amount. So it was between 21 and 28% each discipline. And I'm really sorry, I saw it 2 minutes ago that I have a mixture then now from the German and English, sorry for that. So on the left-hand side, so the 35% is the RDM support who participated in the survey. But we also have 25% of postdocs and senior researchers. We have 11% professors. So you see that we are not only reached out to RDM support, we also got the researchers on board on the survey. So what will be our results? So we see that discipline-specific differences, so there were the issues on metadata standards, data types as well, so this is not surprising. So we had the data generation and the data collection. We have the data use, the data documentation, the quality control, and also the framework conditions that were different in the discipline, or we got different answers there from the discipline, as well as the type of the data publication. So when we asked for the data publication, we got really different answers there. Then we could also identify topics where some of the disciplines have overlaps. So we have the guidelines, we have the implementation of the FAIR principles, the data storage, and the use of naming conventions. So some of the disciplines do that, similar like in other disciplines. And then we also saw in the survey the topics on the persistent identifier, the licenses, and the learning materials, where all the disciplines were using the same. So the persistent identifier, 99% saying DOE, licenses, the CC BY, and the learning materials are normally used from the university or their institution where they are coming from. Yes, so we sum up our results in a paper. So we wrote an article. We have some revisions to do on the article, but I think it's coming up hopefully in June, July, so in summer anywhere. And we also published our data set on Zenodo, and also the R code will follow on Zenodo as well. Okay, and now we are coming to our prototype. So we collected all this information, and then we were discussing, okay, how can we show up the information? How can we structure it to the discipline, to the disciplines? And we are working with Jupyter Book. We decided to go for the Science Europe DMP, so the guidance Tomasz already showed us. And yeah, so I will hand over now to Santosh. So he will introduce us to the Jupyter Book. Yeah.
Hi, everybody. Is it okay if I share my screen for a second?
Yeah, it should be fine.
Yeah.
Okay, just give me 1 second. Is everyone able to see my screen? You should be seeing a GitHub, my GitHub repo.
Yeah, we do.
Okay, perfect. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Thank you for joining us. As Daniela was talking about our working group, we are the Discipline-Specific Guidance for Data Management Plans. We've run a survey to gather information on the different disciplines and what they would like to do with regard to the guidance. And we've also now run public meetings to gather input on the guidances themselves, or rather to develop the guidance for the different disciplines. The idea is that the collected guidances will be published as a Jupyter book, and it will also be archived on Zenodo, so DOI will be available for the different versions. The idea is also that the guidance will be maintained by the community, and that people can add the guidances to new disciplines as they see fit going forward. As the now how to contribute section says, the most direct way to add guidances would be to essentially submit a pull request from the repo. To essentially grab the repo, the chapter 1 in the content section contains a template. You can fill it in and with an updated chapter number, and then submit a pull request, and we would review it, or people who essentially the community who is maintaining it will review it and be able to submit it. Alternatively, if you're not comfortable using GitHub or prefer to use something else, set up a Google form where you can essentially add your guidance as well, and that will be added to the document. As you can see, I'm going to now switch to the actual guidance page. I'm just going to So this will actually be the Jupyter book. The full formatting and everything still is being updated, but right now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different disciplines already templates are available, along with an introduction section that goes over what you need to do know about this document, and also a template, which is, as Daniela said, is based on the Science Europe DMP template, and you can see all the questions that you should answer to develop a guidance. You don't have to answer all the questions for every new guidance document you're looking to develop. Not all the sections would be relevant for every discipline, but the more sections you're able to add on, the more useful the guidance becomes. While there are 4 broad categories or disciplines, like natural sciences, engineering sciences, biological sciences, etc., and social sciences, we are looking to create very granular guidances. So here, as you can see, you have chemistry, but also marine sciences. Then you have somebody with the natural sciences, specifically in the simulation-based climate sciences group. So the idea is that we, as time goes on, we will have more and more guidances added, and we can have a robust set of guidances that will help with data management plan development. Sorry, I just realized that my share screen stopped.
We can still see the
We
screen.
see the GitHub at the moment.
You were able to see when I switched to the different page?
Yeah, yes, we see the GitHub.
Okay, sorry. Okay, then all good. Yeah, so that's essentially there. Please, when you are adding the guidances, do submit, do add your name, institution, and ORCID ID if you'd like to be added onto the acknowledgement section. Yeah, I think that's all I wanted to specifically add about the Jupyter book. Yeah, Daniela, would you like to add anything else?
Maybe show the one from marine science chemistry or from the climate science where something is inside.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. So as you can see here, for example, the guidance of DMPs, you have a general information that essentially tells you about what this guidance is looking to do. And then this was collected from researchers and what they wanted to do specifically about each of the guidances. And here you have questions that ask you about, for example, multiple different sections. So data description and collection or reuse of existing data, documentation and data quality, storage and backup during the research phase, legal and ethical requirements, data sharing, long-term preservation, and then finally, data management responsibilities and resources. So, and we have multiple questions in each of these sections, and the responses provided here provide a context for what the guidance is. Yeah, we have different disciplines added already, and we're looking to add more and more disciplines. We have, I think, one more discipline in the backlog that I'm going to add on, but yeah, we're looking to expand the collection. I think that's it for me. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Do you have any questions on that? Okay, a lot of questions.
Just so you can hear.
In the data management plan template that recommended by Commission for projects, all is built around FAIR principles. So by 4 principles, it goes items. Why we don't see here in these templates this kind of structure?
So we choose the Science Europe template.
What?
The Science Europe template, so we choose, not the, we don't want it to fit it to one funder already. So this is for all funders.
But at least
It's more general.
Different kind of different piece of templates.
Yes, you have different templates, but maybe sometimes it's possible to present these guidance directly in the tools, and then you can have the guidance for the different templates as well.
Yeah, if I can add on, on to
we need to
Daniela's.
provide mapping. Mapping is will be very reasonable work. Mapping between this plan structure and European Commission plan.
If I may add to Daniela's answer, I mean, one of the points here is that we do not want to create more and more data management templates. Hence the idea behind providing guidances. So any given template is likely to have these sections that I just named to be broadly available in a DMP template. I'm sure there's going to be specifics that change, but these sections will exist. And by providing guidances on how to answer each of these sections for different disciplines, whatever the template may be, this guidance would still be available to help researchers use them. So that's kind of the angle we've taken on this.
Thanks. So not a question about templates or anything else, but still a worry about, I don't know, proliferation of stuff that might be difficult to maintain in the long term. I'm slightly worried, not about the principle of having domain-specific guidance, but in the way you've chosen to develop it, which appears to be, you know, potentially we could be ending up here, depending how narrowly we go down disciplines, with 600 of guidance. And inevitably, lots of that will actually be the same. Even if it uses slightly different words from different disciplines, it'll be saying the same thing. We know this is the case because of the efforts in a different direction. Years ago, when we put together the metadata standards group, we were trying to collect metadata standards from lots of different domains. We'd found over 600 of them and are still finding more. And what became obvious there is that lots of these structures were actually the same thing, but using slightly different language. And our hope then is that we can reduce the number of those. So is there some way that perhaps you can approach what you're doing, but in a way where you're reusing content in some way? Otherwise, we're going to have 600 sets of guidance to maintain. I don't know who's going to do that.
Yeah, no, we don't have that. So at the moment, we are still filling in the survey, the information from the survey we got, the examples we get from researchers at the moment in the writing meeting. But no, we didn't want to narrow it down because, yeah, as you already said, so from chemistry, we have the physical chemists who are talking maybe in smally different than the organic chemist side, and we want to give them the chance to understand it and to get the best help, support, guidance for that. Yeah, it could be that we still have 600 at the end.
I'm sorry. We have to cut here. We have a breakout group to discuss this. That's why I couldn't take any more questions. We have to continue with the presentations. We have the next one, also the virtual participant from Kerstin Helbig, and she's gonna talk about software management plans.
Hey everyone, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Perfect. So can you show the slides or should I show the slides?
You should show the slides.
Okay. Then I have to quickly move to them. Sorry for that. I found them. Can you see the slides?
Yes, it's perfect.
Thank you. So what I would like to discuss and talk with you about is software management plans, and maybe we also come to the to output management plans later on. But currently we are, I myself and some other people in Germany, we work on the topic of software management plans. And so here you see a definition we worked out. I know there are a lot of other people working on this topic, like Elixir, and the Software Sustainability Institute also produced something on that. And there are the Fair for Research software principles out there. And so what we thought and what our experience is that software is not very well integrated into data management plan tools to generate software management plans. We see also that there's a need from researchers to have guidance in creating software management plans, and that they don't really work well with the templates for data management plans, so that there are aspects missing and some aspects or some topics are just not relevant for them. And yeah, we see that there is a need for a solution for that. And we also see that there are not so many funders who really treat research software as an independent outcome of research. Most often research software is treated as data, and there are no specialized requirements. Good for those who create research software maybe, But if people are looking for guidance, it's quite difficult to actually address research software. The software management plan is not a standard tool for software management planning. So yeah, the management aspect is not very well addressed, at least in our eyes. When we talk to researchers, this is what they tell us when they try to fill out their plans. There, I already addressed the tools do not offer up-to-date comprehensive templates for software. And another aspect that we could discuss are machine actionable integration of software management plans, for example, into GitHub. And that could, of course, also support FAIR for research software principles. So here are the points for discussion that I prepared. So do we need software management plans, or should we work towards more generalized output plans that combine data and software management? And how could the verification of software be supported by software management plans? And how could machine actionable aspects help with this? So yeah, that are my points for discussion. Thanks for listening, and hope to discuss with you a lot.
Thank you very much. We will have a breakout group to discuss this. We can take one question if you need some clarification.
Sure.
We have one virtual question. Okay.
This is from Leah McEwen. Sorry, I mispronounced your name. Are you reviewing this guidance with other groups in addition to individuals, for example, the discipline, IGs, and RDA? I guess that was actually for.
Yeah, I think this is not for Kerstin. Okay, good.
I suppose it's for Daniela.
It was not for you. Okay, Kerstin, thank you very much. We switch back to the local presentations. We have two more. We have two more speakers. We have Marek. Marek is going to talk about the maintenance of the MAD recommendation. So if you go back to slides, and Marek, the floor is yours.
Go. Yeah. Okay, so hello everyone. I'm Marek Suchanek. I'm from Czech Technical University in Prague. So I'm actually a software engineer, and I am a researcher. I'm a PhD candidate, but I also work on several projects. One of the projects is Data Stewardship Wizard, which is DMP tool. And last year I became co-chair of the working group, Data Management Plans Common Standards, and I was actually thinking how to contribute as software engineer. And well, we on our projects do many things, including DevOps, a lot of automation. We are quite obsessed with proper open source software management, and also with proper, for example, commit messages. So I took a look at the current state of the MADMP from that point of view and identify several issues from the technical point of sight. So just to quickly go through the technical things, how it works. There is some GitHub repository. Tomáš showed you some specification. It's as a README file, so anyone can take a look how it looks like, go through the fields, see the descriptions, see if it's mandatory, etc. But this README is generated from some Google spreadsheet that is maintained by the co-chairs, and that raises some issues. For example, when someone wants to create a pull request, suggest some change, etc. And then this README also is turned into GitHub pages, which is actually the same content as the README file. So there is actually not a single source of truth. That is the main issue that I identified, and that's something that I want to work on. Also, there could be some improvements in terms of community content, because we discussed things like some extensions to the standard, some support of the different formats than JSON. There is also the ontology with some examples, but it's not yet like endorsed format for the standard. and maybe someone will want some other format in the future, for example, XML files, I don't know. And as I said, we are quite obsessed also with some automation, because of course, we do not want to do always manually some tasks. And this also is related to sustainability of the standard. So I captured this as a figure here for you. So basically this doesn't work. Basically, if someone creates an issue or pull request, which are the icons on the top, the maintainer of the repository needs to manually check it if it's something that can be merged directly or needs to be changed in the spreadsheet. Then the spreadsheet is turned by some tool to the README, and also there can be some inconsistency in the content of the repository. So the desired state that I want to have in there is a lot of automation using GitHub Actions, but some other tools as well, and allow, for example, proper versioning of the standard with some DOIs and proper way of crediting the contributors, having some contributing guidelines, some proper documentation. Then there is, of course, a question who and how will do that. For that, thanks to Tomáš that they give me a notice about a grant application possible. I applied for this grant and it was approved. So I will do the work. And there are some tasks and partial goals that I set. But it's actually good that we have this session today, also with the brainstorming, because I need to submit some milestones for this project. So basically, I will now conduct here some user adopter research with you, and we will discuss what should be done in this project to actually support the community that is using or want to use the DMP common standard. So I guess that's it from my side. Is there any question related to this that something is not clear? Maybe if you are deciding to join different breakouts and you are not sure which one. No question? Yeah, there is a question in the back.
Okay. No, I was just surprised that you say there's no single source of truth, because as I interpreted the current schema, the MADMP schema 1.1 currently is the authoritative source of truth. And the other things are just interpretations of that. So how would you respond to that?
What I meant by that, thank you for the question, is that you basically create a version for the entire repository, right? But in the repository, you have the JSON schema, you have the diagram, you have also the README file, and there can be some inconsistency. But it would be better if you need to maintain one source of truth and the others are generated automatically. That's what I meant by this. Of course, everything should be consistent on the release at this point, but it's human task to verify that now.
If I may add, so basically Marek showed you some of the kitchen, how we do this, but yes, there is one single source of truth, which is the documentation, but we have a lot of hard work to update it in several places. So if there are any doubts, documentation always prevails over the JSON schema, but there is a lot of manual work. Yeah, there is a question from the virtual.
Kind of related. This is from João Cardosa. Sorry if I mispronounced that. João. Any plans to provide converters between the various MADMP serializations?
Yeah, that can be also one of these things, because of course, when we want to generate, for example, the schema or something else from the JSON schema, we will need to make some scripts or tools for that or use existing ones. That's something that I will take a look during this project. And then it will be, of course, documented in the repository.
Okay, we have to stop here because we need to have the time for discussion. So we have the last but not least speaker, Ellie, who is going to talk about the recent workshop we took we took part in end of the last year. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Hi. Thanks. Okay, yes, so this is my part. Hi everyone from me as well. I'm Eli Papadopoulou. I work for Athena Research Center in Greece, involved also in the open air infrastructure for open access in Europe. And I'm a co-chair. I'm really happy to be among these people that I now call colleagues, because we have all this, we are in this, we are united under this common vision and goal to try to support research data management by designing and implementing DMPs in the most, using proper standards and best practices as much as possible. So this workshop that you see here was again, I think it ran late last year in November or December, and the idea was that we all come together. There are these different groups as you see them today, working around disciplinary DMPs, working on the technical side of DMPs, or others that touch upon the policy aspects of the data management plan. So we wanted to, the RDA actually wanted to create this space where we discuss what each one of us is doing, and try to highlight the challenges and what are the possible optimal solutions around the challenges, and how that affects the RDA strategy at large. Some of the challenges that were addressed were the following. You see lots of discussion, fruitful discussions around the awareness and how aware researchers are, or even ourselves are, about the different developments that are happening. What are the skills related to DMPs that we need to know, and what are the tools and how the different tools can support us. Another main category of our discussion was around the creation, adoption, implementation of DMPs, and how the different standards that are in place can help, like the one that we have, we provide through the RDA, the DMP Common Standard. We also talked about the differences between institutional and funders DMPs, because funders are very biased onto outputs, and institutions want to, that they also want to know about the input data that are and should be described in the DMP. So different, different levels that we touched. And then for review and evaluation and assessment of DMPs, we see things happening. There is a rubric that is supported by the Science Europe, a very generic rubric, but still researchers are uncertain of how much of detail they should provide in the DMPs to comply and have a good DMP at the end. Some of the things that we provide as solution, or like things, food for thought, let's say, what we can do within our DA is, of course, to collaborate with other groups. For example, the engaging researchers with data with the research data group. They had a very good activity that they undertook a few years ago with the creation of the cookbook, where they collected good use cases, showcasing the variety of engaging, the variety of in the ways that research support staff, service providers, and researchers themselves as champions engage with data management. So we would like to see if we can do the same and expand this work to complement DMPs. It would be good to have DMP typologies, again, work to complete the ontology, DCSO, data common, DMP common standard ontology that is already in place. create some frameworks for DMP evaluation assessment, possibly work with funders in order to do that, and develop a toolkit on how to engage researchers in DMPs, and also that in collaboration with disciplinary specific guidance for DMPs, as this is very, very important. That's from me. I don't want to take much time. I'm very looking forward to the discussions. So let's move on to the discussions. No, it doesn't work. Thank you. So for groups, the discussions are around what you've heard today. One is about the technical things, what are the changes or extensions that we need in the specification. So if you are keen to discuss that with other colleagues that are in the room or online, please feel free to raise your hand and grab the attention so that people can find you and talk about that.
I think group A basically will Marek be in group A, so you can talk to Marek, flock around Marek.
Yeah. Then group B, the question is, what are the most difficult or out of research things that you wish you shouldn't deal with as a researcher going on to having a template and going on to completing the DMP? Are there all things relevant for you, and how can different people, different professionals support you, or even the services support you? This is you.
Okay, so I will be in this group, so flock around me.
Okay. And then group C is what is missing from your disciplinary research area. If you have tried to create a DMP in your research area, what are the things that are missing? Of course, you know who to be around for that, Daniela. In group D, what are the directions we should be taking moving on to software management plans or to other outputs as well, since someone I think it was Kirsten that already mentioned that, and that would be me. So, Maria, would you like to? Is everything set in the chat as well for online participants?
How are you going to coordinate?
So we will
on-site and online people?
So basically the plan is that there are 4 breakout groups online, and then people online will go to the groups from 1 to 4 and they will discuss. Here we split into the corners of the room and we discuss in groups. And then I think we go back here, we finish 3:15, and 3:15 we report from the groups. Every group should report us, like Kevin did yesterday, 1 or 2, maximum 3 points that we can memorize well what was discussed. And then this is 15 minutes for wrap up. And we do the same with the online participants.
They can mute and do it verbally.
Yes, yes. So I think we should.
So we should spread.
Maria.
So we would like to start the reporting back and would like to ask the group A, virtual group A, to report on what they discussed. So please unmute and speak.
Paulette, do you want me to do the update or do you want to do that?
Yes, no, you can go ahead.
Okay, so good afternoon to everybody over there in Sweden. So in Group A, there was a lot of people. It was me and Paulette. So we were talking about extending the MADMP, we call it model or application profile. And basically we were trying to come to terms with the fact that we each represent different contexts. Paulette comes from France and they have a specific community there. I come from Portugal, same thing. So we're trying to find ways to extend the model and how is she doing that, coping with that, and how am I doing that over here? That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Marek, now your report for Group A, which was here in person.
Okay, so we touched several things that can be changed in the standard. We touched formats and we discussed that it would be better to stick just with the JSONs and do it properly for sake of the maintenance. And there is some possibilities of automatic transformation to other formats, for example, XML, that is already used by some people and groups. And also we discussed how to validate the compliance with the standard for different formats. That's something that is needed as well. Similar issue. Okay, so one of the most critical things is adding the affiliations, which is pull request, I think, from Brian there already. And for the extensions, we discussed that people actually want to use it in the different types of RDM workflows. So not just have there like the information of the machine of the DMP for funders, but for example, for repositories or workflow systems, etc. And that could be done using the extensions. But we also concluded that during this discussion that there is no need to have like some special field for the identification of the extensions in the JSON.
Sorry, the online people asked if you could just say the beginning part again because they couldn't hear it. Sorry, just really quickly.
Okay, so we discussed formats and we concluded that sticking with just one is okay if we provide some way how to transform to others or at least guidance. And we discussed also validation, that there should be documented way how to validate MADMPs, that they are compliant with the standard, and also make clear differences between versions that are published.
Okay, thank you. Now we should ask the group B, which was virtual, to unmute and speak like 2 points that we discussed.
Okay, Richard, do you want to go or should I?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Sorry, I'm happy to do that. Yeah. So there's just two of us, Yasmin and I, in Group B, and we had a very good discussion. We had definitely some common ground, I think, in challenges around culture in adopting data management plans, and the lack of training around some of the fairly fundamental fundamental best practices around research data management. And so wondering how we could use data management plans as a living document going into a project to really keep on top of good data management. Also had a question around how these sorts of quite prescriptive processes that you're developing here are aligning with funder data management plans. from our experiences, funder data management plans can be really very different and change even within a single funder. So I think that's potentially a real challenge to adoption if these sorts of processes can't keep up with what funders are doing. Yasmin, do you have anything to add?
No, I think you just covered the whole points, but yeah, I think for me, the most important is just like how to really, like DMP is said to be a living document, but how to make it really living and how to ensure that, for example, not the same students are filling the same DMP, because the purpose of it is that you want to make like reuse the data. So how can you ensure that just like you don't have hundreds of DMPs being filled exactly the same and no one basically rechecks them? So you just end up with documents that you cannot really make the best use of it.
Okay, thanks a lot for the summary. I will report for the group B. We had a very dynamic discussion. We started discussing a bit about the domain-specific guidance, but then we said, okay, there were some concerns about it, how it should work. But I think what we identified is that there is quite a lot of overlap when it comes to information about ethics and sensitive personal data that you have to provide it here and there. We also discussed that there is a difference between big projects needing DMPs and small projects needing DMPs and how people approach that. Because basically for a big DMP, a proposal is like for a big project, proposal is like a DMP. That was quotation. And we discussed also that there's a different perception of what a DMP should be, what a DMP tool should be. Should it be a training tool, a way to generate a document, and how it all works together? So that's more or less what we discussed in group B, I hope. And the audience, that the DMP is relevant for different stakeholders, and that's why there could be a temptation to ask even more questions, and that's why the DMP is a catch-all thing, and there are problems in how to write and how to communicate the information that the respective stakeholder gets what he, she needs. That was the group B. Group C, virtual, please report. Please unmute and speak, group C.
Francesca, or?
It's up to you, Gabby.
Okay, well,
If
hi.
it's okay.
I think good afternoon for you. And well, we were two. And Francesca, that works with the area of astrophysics, and me, that I work with the area of social science. And well, the issues were at the beginning different, but have to be with how the DMT help us, like in the case of the astrophysics, with the analysis, with the different kind of analysis that the data from the source, that is big data, is analyzed to where the data is finally analyzed for the paper or for the publication or for the results that the researcher wants. All, as Francesca told us, there is a lot of stages in that analysis that the DMP do not cover in how the people, the researcher, formulate something like that, as I understand, Francesca. And for me was the problem of how the DMP reflects the standardized concepts in social science, when in social science there's a lot of points of view about one phenomenon, and then how you can standardize that to have a DMP for the university, and not a lot of different concepts and points of view reflected in DMPs that, as the last participant said, will begin to be like a lot of documents in the server that will not be used for anything. Something like that. We discussed. It was a nice discussion.
Thank you very much. And now Daniela will report what we'll discuss here.
We discussed 2 or nearly 3 points. So the last one I start with was the questions: do we need more than one template? So we have normally the general or the other issues in the templates are getting the same in each template. But we then said, okay, maybe so we have some tools who are providing decision trees to go through the template, and maybe the guidance can help the researchers in combination with the decision tree to make their way through these DMP and to get a bit more clear on what is data, because some of the people said, okay, researchers are coming and they say, okay, I don't know what data, I don't have data, so what are my data? And here for the guidance can help. And the other point is that it's discipline specific to include the DMP. So how can we get the researchers to do the DMP when it's not only coming from the funder's perspective? So this is the research processes are different in each discipline, and we should think about in which discipline where we can implement the DMP and to make it easier for the researchers to deal with that too.
Thank you very much. So now Group D, virtual, please unmute and speak. We have started 5 minutes later, so we take this 5 minutes from you.
So we discussed the software management plans and what we came to. So I also put the notes in the chat for those who didn't join. The DMP is already very long, so it can be difficult to add software into the existing templates. Nonetheless, we discussed if extra fields and questions could be added as optional extras. And I really like this idea of decision trees that Daniela just mentioned, because it also has some overlap with the domain-specific guidance, I think. And software management plans could be very relevant for those researchers who have software as the main or primary output. Then an SMP should be generated. But if software is more a byproduct of the research or just created to create the data, it should be integrated into the data management plan. And we discussed a bit about the output plans, and everybody, or at least those who discussed, were preferred the output plan as something we should have a look at in the future.
Thank you very much for the summary. And Ellie.
So our discussions were along the same lines. Of course, it was the same topic, but louder. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. Yes. So our discussions were similar, and we observed some things that we observed are the same. For sure, the research community, there is a wide consensus that the research data management, the data management plans is not enough to cover other aspects of the research conduct. We saw that in this group, we were a group of data stewards, so people that support research data management, but also people that provide services like DMP tools. And although we have the templates, for example, for software data management, we saw that there's we lack of awareness. There's a lack of awareness, and we need to strengthen guidance of researchers. There's a misconception that we need to eliminate on open software, so that people, especially students, do not fear of sharing their code. And we also said that IPs are more relevant for software, so we should also talk more about that. there was an argument whether software management plans exist or not, and what we came across is that we realized that project management in software engineering has been there with agile methodologies and scrums that secure the management. And proper management. So we just need to basically take this and embed it in the concept of the DMPs or the management plans overall. On the question if we need one or more data management plans, the decision tree idea was also explored. The outputs plan was also mentioned, as NASA is also exploring these open science plans, to have open science plans that have all elements in them. And also, according to that, we should also make the links with you, with the technical resources that are in the standard. So we should expand this part of the standard. And make the links of different templates. Reusability, when there is a description of the methodology used, was mentioned, as well as reproducibility, under what conditions the code is shared, and all those things are super important, and we should take into consideration. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. So we are done with the reporting, and this is basically the end of the session. Only this worked. Good. Yeah. Okay, thanks. So basically, thank you very much for attending. We want to see you in Salzburg at the next plenary. We want to chat with you in the coffee breaks at this plenary. If you have any topics, if you believe that anything is important, if you want to create a new working group, talk to each other, talk to the existing group chairs, and we are all staying in touch. So thank you very much. Now